Okay, so right now this probably looks very bizarre to you, but a lot has went into the design of what we decided to do here. If you look at how this eyebrow effectively is designed on this, and I know it's hard to see because you're seeing so many different colors here that's probably taking a lot of the dimension away. But effectively what we've done here is we've created a very smooth transitional rise and back down, and then we've taken away the bottom cutouts of the 2-liter dash, and we filled them in with the foam. Now we will go back tomorrow and we will put this urethane resin over it and sand all this out. Once this is sanded out, this is ready to go to our trimmer, where he's going to wrap this whole thing in suede. This is actually going to look very nice. I'm quite pleased with the way it came out. But the motivation behind the design of this eyebrow is a couple of things. One, if you look at the modern cars, they have something similar to this, just a single sweeping effect like that. Two, if you look at the original GTA, one of the simplicities about that dash is also one of its attractions. The rise and fall of the original GTA type dash, I wanted to try to incorporate that vintage thing into this. Now, with why we're doing all this is because, not because we're trying to get cool and creative, it was because of this. The customer wanted a really advanced, all-encompassing package of data in the car. And this is what he's went with, okay? If you look at that, the primary thing on there is the tach. This is all controlled by a multi-pin connector. Down on the bottom in the display is where you're gonna get everything else. You're gonna have everything from your thermostats to your oil pressures, oil temps, everything you can think of, to include speedo, will be on the bottom of this as well. Okay, we have all the parts to make that happen. This is going to sit inside here, flush to this. Now all this is going to be on that single piece cut wood that the center console is going on as well. Right now you see such an advanced piece would look unusual if we hacked up an early series step nose paper dash, and it certainly would not have worked in any capacity on the 1750 dash. So that's why we went back to a 2-liter dash, because it was the easiest to modify, and it was also probably the least attractive and most abundant one out there. So you can see how this is starting to come together. Once we get all this foamed in and smoothed out with the urethane, you'll really get a sense of what this is all about. But effectively, this is going to finish up quite nicely, and we're quite proud of it. A lot of thought went into the design of this. Just so you know, air conditioning duct, and then air conditioning duct over there. The two on top are the defrost. So yeah, the car is getting air conditioning, and that is a huge benefit because it's not going to take up a whole lot of the car's overall appeal of its vintage feel. Then you're going to have something like this incorporated into it that's going to look natural on this dash as opposed to what our alternatives were. So we're really happy with where we're going with this, and this is going to work out quite fine. Now, for the reason why we use this expanding foam, this isn't special automotive foam. This is not the stuff you can go to your local hardware store and get to fill in cracks in your house. This stuff is not only sandable, but it's a heck of a lot more rigid than the stuff that you could buy at your home supply, Home Depot type place, okay? This stuff is a phenomenal sound deadener. The reason I did this is because I needed to fill all this in with urethane. I didn't want to just fill up these big gashes in urethane, so we foamed it, just like basically looking like this as a cake. And so when we put the icing over the top of this and smooth it out, it's going to look great. Now all this is going to be hidden under suede, so you know we don't have to make it too pretty because the suede is effectively going to hide it all. But it did need to have a general feel of a natural flowing line, so we couldn't just hack it in any little thing throwing it in there. So now what else we're going to do is we're going to go back over to the stuff on the GTV that we're reconstructing the rear on, and we're going to give you a few things on what's going on over there. Johnny? Okay, so basically what we're doing is I'm leveling off everything on the inside of this foam. This is the next day. This stuff hardens up in a matter of about 4 to 5 minutes, and it's, you know, it doesn't get much harder than that afterwards. But it's incredibly rigid. It's kind of to the equivalent, I would guess, of almost like pumice stone, if you will. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the foam is equal to the thickness of the metal that we folded into. After that, then at that point I'm ready to go ahead and put the urethane over top of it. And once that urethane kicks off and it's hardened, we're going to sand it down, and this thing is officially ready to go off to the trimmers. And again, I realize what we're doing is not for everybody, but effectively it is going to meet the overall creative image that we're trying to make out of this car, and that is the continuous mixture of new with old. Sometimes trying to really encapsulate the heritage of the Alfa Romeo's racing era, and at the same time further it down the road with modern technology. We're really kind of thrilled with how this is working out so far, and when you see all this stuff done, it'll make so much more sense to you. But effectively, right now the way it works is we're kind of okay with it. Right about now you can see what it is I'm trying to accomplish. The foam is shaped, the gauge fits in just fine. So now we're going to put the urethane in to effectively fill up all the foam. And once that portion's done, it's finally off to the trimmers. So this is an original 74 style dash, or 2-liter dash as we call them. By all accounts, I guess this really isn't an unattractive dash. In fact, I've kind of grown attached to them because I have a 74, and you know the dash, it doesn't look bad to me at all. But effectively, it wasn't going to work with the GTA replica we're making. The whole premise of that car is to strip it down to its most basic form, but yet have a lot of detail and complexity hidden behind the minimalist effects. So this is the dash we elected to sacrifice for, again, multiple reasons. One, there's an abundance of them for us, and two, they seem to be the least desirable dashes to try to save. So, and it also made it a much easier way for us to create the effect that we were going with on the dash that we had modified for the GTA project. Anyhow, just if you hadn't seen one of these up close, there you go, that's what it looks like. Okay, this is the after effects of us modifying that 2-liter dash. As you can see, it's what I was talking about being stripped down but yet complex at the same time. This total package that's inside this stack setup here is that you see primarily the tack, but the green strip on the bottom is a digital display. It covers everything, anything from speed to oil and water temps, pressures, you name it. It has every conceivable indicator in there, and it doesn't clutter up the entire dash with 1,000 gauges. This is exactly what the owner wanted. He wanted simplicity, but he wanted it to also give him all the acquisition that he ever wanted. I couldn't think of a better way of doing this. You can see how a 69 style dash was not going to work on this, and more so a step nose dash definitely wasn't going to work for a couple of reasons. One, it has a compound curve on the center of the cluster, which would have made it very difficult for this to fit. Secondly, it's a paper dash, and they're kind of hard to come by. So there's too many reasons why we didn't want to make one of those dashes this effect, and there's very few reasons why we didn't feel like we couldn't do this one. This dash is also far more rigid than it used to be, because this entire framing is steel underneath all this, and we're able to weld this in. So anytime I can add steel back into the original dash, I'm only going to make it more rigid. The benefits of that is especially with all the foam and everything you saw underneath this dash will be substantially stiffer and, more importantly, quieter. There won't be those odd nuances of squeaking and rattles when this is all bolted down. In conjunction with all that, we have the air conditioning hidden underneath the dash, and it all is just going to come together quite clean without a million dials. It doesn't look like an airplane clustered where you need to a manual to start your car.